Hello, everyone. Welcome to Middle Fantasy, the show where I talk about science fiction and fantasy. I am your host, Zack, and today I have another special book review episode. Today we're going to be talking all about Alanna, the First Adventure, written by Tamora Pierce, and this is the first in the Song of the Lioness series, and for me, this is a sleeper hit. I'm just going to say this right off the bat. This is a book that has been on my shelves for years and years and years. I actually remember getting this at like a thrift store in like New Mexico or some place that I was traveling and like, oh, okay, I'll put it in my basket. And it's just been on my shelf for years and years. I'm not sure if the reason why I haven't read it, was it because of the cover or was it because like I looked at it and like I looked at the print size and was like, oh, I'm gonna be able to finish this book. And I kind of get the gist of it, but I decided to read it over the weekend. And I've just been like, never judge a book by its cover, never judge a book by its print size, because this book is a banger and we're going to talk about it. Though, first off the bat, I just have to say that this book, in theory, it was not meant to me. This book is a YA book. It was written in 1983. This was written for like young adult women or teenage girls. And I want to like nip this in the butt really quickly and said that this book anyone can read. Don't judge this book by like kind of like what it suggests on here, because when we get into it, what you're going to be doing, we're going to find that this book is very, like, you think all these things are, like, very surface level, but when you really get into it, you're really looking at, like, a literary iceberg. So why don't we just get into the review? So what is the plot of the story? Now, it's your typical girl wants to become a great knight, but because it's, like, a feudal medieval system, girls are, like, you can't be knights or great warriors, you have to be, like, wizards and mages and everything in between. And she's like, how dare you? So I'm going to disguise myself as a boy and I'm going to go to night school and become a great warrior because you all smell. And on the surface, it's your traditional like Mulan story or, any like warrior girl type of story. But the real plot of the story has to actually deal with like identity. What's your place in the world? If we just examine this trope, it's just like you already know like the beats of it. It's like, oh no, they're gonna find me out, and when they do, no one's gonna like me, but they'll accept me at the end. And when it comes to Tamora Pierce, I've never actually read any of her books besides this one, is that I was just struck in how this book, the clear themes of this book is pretty much like identity, like what does it mean to be a knight or a great warrior? Do you have to be, super strong, or, does might equal right? Or can you use your brain? And I find when it comes to Alanna as her character, she's a lot like Arya Stark, and how don't take advantage of them because they'll murder the shit out of you, and they'll do it while smiling. Now, what is the summary of this book? Now, when it comes to it, we follow the main character of Alanna, who her and her identical twin brother are going off to the road. She's going to be going off to the school of witchcraft and wizardry, whereas her brother is going to be going to like night school to learn night things and maybe meet like some other cool night people. And when it comes to this, they have a decision where it's like, hey, what if we both pretend we're just twin boys and you go off, you take my place and go to wizarding school and defeat Wizard Hitler, and I'll take night school and basically like learn night things and do cool things. And pretty much, it goes from there. They have their split. And Alanna becomes Alan, and it becomes like that plot of like, are they gonna find out what's going to be happening here? She befriends a prince and things along those ways. Like, this book does kind of like show its age a little bit, especially when it comes to tropes. Like, she hangs out with the prince, and they form a bond, and there's a lot of like 80s things with like using Middle English and stuff like that. And that's okay. What I find to be so great about Tamora Pierce in this is that she really explores that idea of like, if you're going to assume a different role, what are you going to be doing? And like the challenges of like being in a different person's shoes. And I found that to be so much fun, because on the surface, you feel like she's going to be good at everything. She's going to be great, but that's not the case. She gets her ass kicked. She has like a lot of trials and tribulations. This book actually kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Ranger's Apprentice series. If you've ever read that series, the first book and this are very similar, kind of like beat for beat wise in many things, because they start off as like pages and they have to work their way up, and there's like different hierarchies, and there's always like that a-hole bully type of kid. But the themes of this book kind of like escalate this book a lot because you're looking through this through Alanna's eyes, and she's dealing with things, and she has to like use her brain, use her smarts. And when it comes to like the Middle English stuff, it kind of got a little funny because they used like they and there's like a bunch of like proper English, even though when it comes to this book a little bit, if we didn't have that, it would just work fine. And again, this book was written in 1983, the same year as Return of the Jedi. And I was like trying to think when it comes to like these types of stories, like when it comes to like a female focus, like coming of age, like YA series. And Tamora Pierce seems like one of the beginnings, and this is like the proper way to do it. The only one that I can think of like very similar to this is like Dragon's Bane by like Barbara Hamling. And this book is written for all ages. This is a book like if you're gonna give it to anyone, give it to anybody, because it's a book that when you read it, you're gonna find different appreciations, especially when it means to like have fit into different roles. Maybe it might not fit into society in many ways. And that's the stuff that I like. Now, when it comes to the magic system, this is a very soft magic system. Magic does what it needs to do, from like healing to like magic swords to magic crystals. And that didn't deter from the book. Soft magic has its place, don't get me wrong. And it's something when I was reading it, it was almost a little refreshing to go back in time to read almost like swords and sorcery and get like nice, warm, and cozy. I was expecting like unicorns to pop up, but they never did. And that's okay. I mean, there's more books, so who knows what happens. But when it came to that, I found that to be so much fun. Now, who is this book aimed for? Well, I feel like when it comes to this book, actually right now, it's interesting because you can give this book to anyone. You can give this to like a 4-year-old up to pretty much my age, a 25-year-old. You can give this to a lot of people. Even though this book wasn't made for me, I really appreciated it. I'm not going to sugarcoat, like when it comes to this book, it's like, what is identity? And it's one of those, you can give this to someone that's trying to figure out who they are, what they're trying to do and figure out in the world. And this is a book that more people need to read because of that, because Tamora Pierce is very, very progressive for this time, because she's really delved into themes that are very much like, what does it mean to be a boy? What does it mean to be a girl? Or what does it mean to just be yourself? And I found that to be so thrilling and so different for a book from the 80s. I was like, wow, this is like a rocket ship. And I recommend this to everyone if you can get a chance to read this book. I plan on reading more in this series. I plan on like covering them all more on the show. And I just want to say that if you really enjoy these types of books, check it out, because it's a very easy read. It's like less than 300 pages. There isn't like, if you're looking for like a very like not middle of the road fantasy story, because this is very, this is obviously like I call it like a middle fantasy because it's high fantasy, but it meets you midway because it isn't like Lord of the Rings. You need to pull out the map. Everything's very in close proximity. They explain like a lot of the magical stuff at very surface level, and that's fine, because I found that to be so much fun. Like, you don't need to be thrown into this world. It's almost like you're breezing through a fantasy world, which when it comes to the prose, it comes to the characters. Like, the characters in this are very, besides Alanna and a couple other characters, they're very one-dimensional. Like, this is the bully character, this is the prince, this is this old knight person. And that is what I found to be fun. The villains in this, they're not that good. I feel like the main conflict is more of the trials and tribulations of Alanna as Alan, rather than like the big bad. The big bad was there because you need to end the book off with a bang, not a whimper. And they were okay. And the ending of this leads it up to a good sequel. And this is a book that I'm going to be rereading and probably giving to people. I already know someone I'm going to be giving this book to that needs it, and they're going to enjoy it, and they're going to appreciate everything about it. Can you find this book pretty much everywhere? It's at my library. You can find it still at Barnes & Noble. This is a book that's very widely circulated. Just buy it. Find it on thriftbooks.com. Not my shameless plug, but I like them. And just read it. Read the other ones. I'm going to be exploring more Tamora Pierce because I found her style is really easy to get into. Her characters are a lot of fun. And a lot of her conflicts are so different because they're not made for me. But I appreciate that when this was written, you have to realize, you have to put yourself back in time in like 1983. There weren't really any like real female focused stories. I guess there's like Susan and Chronicles of Narnia And again, there's like Barbara Hamley, and I'm probably like missing a whole bunch of people, and I apologize. This isn't like a field that I'm really well versed in, but I'm gonna try to immerse myself a lot more into this because I love your sword and sorcery, your soft magic systems. You have like a lot of these like nice warm books, and this is one of those where just read Alanna, you're gonna have fun, you're gonna swing a sword, and at the end of the day, you're gonna finish the book in a sitting or two, and you're gonna be like, wow, that was great. Time to read the next one. So check it out when I get a chance to read the other ones, because I already have them on order. We're going to be reading through them. We're going to be discovering a whole lot of things. And I just got to say, check this book out. I just strongly recommend it. I can't say other good things about it because I might reread the book. Yeah, I might reread it at this point. If you like this video, maybe consider subscribing down below. I'd really appreciate that. If you really liked it, maybe give me a thumbs up. That would really, really help me. What do you guys think of this book? Have you read it? Have you not? What are some early books that have like female-focused characters in them that have magical abilities or awesome? What do you guys think of like the trope of like girl having to disguise himself as a boy and then they become like a super great warrior? I'm interested to hear like things like those types of tropes because they're done a lot, but also at the same time, when they're done, some of them are great and some of them are very bad. This is a case of one that's done really well. And like I said, go check it out. Well, everyone, like always, may your food and drink ever be tasteful, and may your fantasy books be filled with fantasy and adventure. Thanks, everyone. Bye!